We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Hi, welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Drew Brown. We hope to inspire, entertain, and learn something so we can all make this world a better place for our children. I'd like to introduce to you somebody who's my friend, my wingman, my main man, and I have a wingman watching my back, Dr. Paul Thompson. Hey, Paul, what's happening?
Oh, not much. Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Thompson, and you just heard from Mr. Drew Brown, Dark Gable. He's the American dream. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the pilot's pilot, the role model's role model, and most importantly, his royal fullness. How are you doing today, Mr. Dark Gable?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad I'm full of knowledge, Paul. I'm glad I'm full of knowledge. Well, we're going to have a great show right now. Check this out. Whoa, Dr. Paul, how you doing, my brother? You looking good today.
Well, I can't look as good as you, but I'm trying. I had a really good night's sleep. This is early in the morning, and I'm charged up and ready to go.
Well, you know, I had a great night's sleep too, Doc. And what I'm seeing is I get up real early, but now when my body says to sleep, I'm going to take advantage of it. Yes. How about this one? I'd like to welcome all of our old and new listeners to the show. Thank you for listening. Our new listeners, if you would like to write a review on Apple Podcasts, we surely appreciate it. We really enjoy you guys. We enjoy doing this show. You can get us on wingmenshow.com and get all of our shows here. And you can watch us on YouTube. You can see those badass F-18s that Dr. Paul has behind his head this morning. I didn't do any Peloton this morning. I didn't go to Costco. But guess where I'm going?
Where are you going?
I'm taking the family to Italy. How about that one?
Good. Oh, what part?
We're going to go to Sicily, the wedding. I have a nephew who plays professional basketball in Spain, and he's married an Italian girl, and they're going to get married in Sicily. Oh, so great. Katrina and I, Taryn and Angel, I'm taking my granddaughter. We're going to Rome. Then we go to Florence. Then we go to the wedding in Sicily. Then we come back on the Amalfi Coast, Sorrento and Capri. You've been there. The Nimitz came there all the time.
Yeah, I've been to Sicily too.
Oh, wow.
You should fly to Sicily.
Isn't that where the Godfather comes from?
Supposedly. I think that's where the Cosa Nostra comes from.
Yeah, Sicily. I got a couple of meetings there, if you know what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Anyway, so I'm going to come back with pictures and stories, and I can't wait. So, Dr. Paul, abortions, war, viruses, mass murders, extreme weathers. That is the news of our day. And when I put them all together, I was tripping out. That's a lot of bad stuff. So guess what? We're not going to do that. You see, we're on a different frequency. And you kind of taught me about this, Dr. Paul. I asked you about a rap song, WAP, and you had no clue of what I was talking about. And that happens to be a rap song with very disgusting words in it. But it's a jam and beat. Point being, you're not on that frequency. Right. So you would never know about a song like that. Each one of us are on certain frequencies. And you and I, Dr. Paul, by being wingmen, by growing up the way we did, we're on a certain frequency. So we hear certain things. We project certain things. This show is a certain frequency. We're a certain culture. You see, it's not about black and white. It's about frequencies and cultures. See, we grew up a certain way. You and I can relate because of our New York upbringing. Right. That's a culture. That's not a color. So we're going to be the anti to that. We're going to be the anti-bad news. Or if we do have news like this one, the war in Ukraine, NATO now has Sweden and Finland in it. And the U.S. is sending 2 F-35 squadrons to England. And we were talking about that buildup, the NATO buildup. But I wanted to know, Doc, since I've been out, what is an F-35? Because when I saw a picture of it, it looked badass. But they're flying off of ships now. I didn't know anything about these airplanes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the F-35?
Yeah, the F-35 is apparently it's quite an airplane for it. One thing, it's got the most powerful engine on any fighter that's ever been produced. Pretty different things about it. It took a long time to come to existence. It's purchased by a bunch of countries. It is very good in the battlefield in terms of intelligence. It can do multiple things, gather intelligence. It can be offensive, defensive. The legs on it are not super long, though. Can't go that far. The radius of action, leaving from a place and coming back.
What does legs mean? What do legs mean?
Legs. The distance it can fly without being refueled, without the need to be refueled. To go
and it can be air refueled, right?
It can be. They can do air-to-air refueling. Of course, they can do that. The thing is, it's stealth, and you don't want to carry external tanks that will give you maybe give you away in terms of a radar picture. So you want to be
stealth means. Stealth. You can't be seen by the enemy's radar.
I should say that stealth. Stealth to be almost invisible, or really invisible. So they're very expensive. They look a lot like the F-22 Lightning fighters made by the same company, Lockheed. As I saw it, I saw the last 4 F-22s being constructed a few years ago up here in Marietta, Georgia. And they're just getting ready to produce the F-35s in this bay. Very, very interesting. So anyway, the thing is, it's a vertical takeoff and landing airplane. Also replaces the AV-8 Harriers the Marine Corps has. It can go, straight up, straight down, and straight off. So I think it can take a catapult launch, or you don't need a catapult to launch off the ship. It just needs just a little distance to get going, and you just kind of take off. Like a shopping cart at Walmart or whatever, it just kind of just goes.
That's incredible. Yeah. How about the F-18? Okay, when we were on the ship, we flew attack jets. And I've made this very clear. The only reason they make aircraft carriers is for attack. That's why they make them, to project force all over the world. Fighters are just support to me. They make sure that the carrier's there, and they make sure that we can carry our weapons on to target.
Right.
Now, this is what I want to know. The A6, we could carry damn near 30 500-pound bombs under our wings if we took off the doors. So we could carry 28 without taking off the doors for the landing gear. We got replaced by the F-18.
Right.
That's a fighter and attack. They can't carry as many weapons as we can. What is the deal with the new Super Hornet, the new F-18?
I think the new F-18 it's got bigger engines, different intake, more capable, and sure it can carry a larger payload. I don't know about the electronic version, but if you look at the F-18s, they're not really great big airplanes. They're not that big, say, compared to the size of an F-14.
I think what's happening is that they're making more. The weapons are getting stronger, so you don't have to carry 28 of them. You probably only have to carry 3.
Yeah, maybe more precise, and they need to maneuver because again, if you look at the time back in the old days when you were in the Navy, you had all these different kinds of airplanes on the flight deck. Now, if you look, it's not much. It's F-18s and F-18s.
Wow, that's amazing. They all do different jobs.
They do different jobs, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about stealth. You were talking about all this technology. Well, really smart people come up with all that, And I don't know if you know this, Dr. Paul, but I've had a hero in my life. I've had a couple of them. My first one, sports, was Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
My other heroes are Jackie Robinson, Malcolm X, and this man right here. He is, I believe, him and Joe Louis and Jesse Owens beat Hitler. Albert Einstein, a Jew, and 2 black men beat Hitler. They showed him that they were not smarter, stronger, or faster. Albert Einstein is a genius, and he came up with the theory of relativity. He studied quantum physics. He studied things I don't even know what I'm talking about. How about that? My son actually reads about quantum physics, and I'm very impressed with that, if you want to know the truth.
Okay.
But Albert Einstein is my hero, not for that, not for coming up with the theory of relativity. It's for his common sense words. One of the things that happened to me when I was going through the Navy is that I was the only black jet pilot. I was the only one. You were the only one too when you went through. And I heard these words and it kept me going. And it said, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. And that quote right there, I have hanging on my wall. And the people who didn't want me to be a Navy jet pilot or who didn't want me to be successful weren't bad people, weren't good people. They were mediocre minds. And I wasn't a great person or bad person. I am a great spirit. And great spirits have a lot of problems in this world for mediocre people. Anyway, the other thing he did that I loved is that Hitler said that the theory of relativity was incorrect. And to prove it, he had 40 of Germany's finest scientists sign a letter that Albert Einstein's theory was incorrect. And when Albert Einstein got it, do you know what he said? If my theory was wrong, all you needed was one signature.
That's good.
To me,
he probably said it just like that too.
Yeah, just like that with that Jewish accent and everything.
Yeah, I think so. Just
See, that's my culture. I'm Jewish, so I can actually do things like that. We were talking about frequencies and cultures.
So you're the real thing, and Eddie Murphy is imitating you.
Right. They used to say, "Are you Sammy Davis?" No, I was born Jewish. I didn't become Jewish. Anyway, Albert Einstein. I want to become a man that doesn't get angry right away, but thinks of something that can really bust you. And that's what he did. He busted Hitler by just saying that if it was wrong, why do you need 40 people to say it's wrong? Dr. Paul, what do you think about Albert Einstein? Because the more I learn about him, the more that I learn about him, the more I love him. He was quite a man with crazy hair and all.
Yeah.
A genius, a real genius, not just about quantum physics, but about life.
Yeah, I was wondering how he came up with all this stuff that's just popped in his head, or he developed it over the years. Because you talk about quantum mechanics, which is looking at things at the micro level, at the atomic level, and the subatomic level, how physical properties interact. And I don't think they even had electron microscopes at that point. This is just coming in his head in terms of what is his equation: E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, which is a big number. Speed of light is 186,000 miles a second. And if you square that, I looked the other night, you get like 34.5 billion. So it's going to be 34.5 billion times some mass. That gives you some kind of, an energy equation. They use some of this stuff to develop the atomic bomb. I know he was a pacifist. He wouldn't have
Very
approved.
much so.
But they use that stuff.
They used his theory to make an atomic bomb.
The
guy who made it was Oppenheimer.
Yes.
And do you know, Katrina and we lived in St. Thomas. For 10 years, we lived down there in Paradise. And next to St. Thomas is an island called St. John. Mm-hmm. And Oppenheimer had a house there. And he had a house right on the water because once he found out that the destruction he invented, what it could do to mankind, he became a recluse and never spoke to another person. He went to that island and just did not talk to people anymore after he realized the damage he could do to the world.
It's funny about destruction. Even the Nobel Prize, Nobel, we get the Nobel Prize in this in literature and things like that. Well, he was the inventor of dynamite.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then let's take this back to one of my theories. This is a Drew Brown theory for real. People talk about smart. You got to be smart. How smart is it to make a weapon that can destroy mankind? Not that smart, I don't think. But what about kindness? What about the woman, the man, the child, the elderly, who are not that really educationally intellectual, but are kind, and they give something to mankind. They give something to their neighbors. Matter of fact, great time for a Wingman PSA. This is Wingman PSA. Treat others as you want to be treated. Become your own best friend. You are unique. Love yourself. Treat others as you want to be treated. This has been a Wingman PSA.
That's a good PSA.
You like that, Doc?
Yeah, I like that. Every once in a while I look at, you turn on the computer and everything is bad news. You say, I give you bad news. There's nothing but bad news. Again, for the people looking at us, we want to be the anti-bad news. There's enough bad stuff all the time. You see it everywhere. So we try not to be negative. If we are, it's probably to make a point and a passing point. But there's so much depression and sadness that I see on the news, or sometimes just going to the grocery store. The way people look, the way they are, it's nothing violent, but there's just kind of a spiritual depression that I see more now than I've seen in a while. So we try to stay stay upbeat, and you need to stay upbeat too.
Well, the antithesis to that, if you look at people, the saying is the glass half empty or half full. Well, there's a truism, and I say it depends on how thirsty you are. And hopefully we give our audiences some more water so they're not that thirsty and they walk around with a smile.
Yeah.
Because, I take negatives and I make a positive out of them. That's how I live my life. I want to be happy. And I hope that this show makes some other people happy. How about this one? This is the funniest thing we talked about. Do you realize, Dr. Paul, if you took the temperature of a child the way they took our temperature with an anal thermometer, you would get arrested for child abuse. Do you imagine that? Yeah, I don't know if I said that right, but we used to take our temperatures a lot different than they're taking them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'd be in the back of a squad car at minimum with lights flashing. But it's different now. Now, you take a temperature. Basically, it's Star Trek. Remember Star Trek?
They could do it from when we were walking through the airports. Remember that? They were taking our temperature from a camera 100 feet away.
Yeah, I did that in another place in Narita, Japan, and Hong Kong. Hong Kong became a thing. And I think Singapore later on. This is the thing scanning you. We know what you got. We're not going to mess with you. If it goes off, I think there's a crew member. One guy went off. He just pull him out of line and said, "Now you're going over here for a while for extra screening."
Well, I just remembered that taking my temperature was not a fun time.
No, you can do all kinds of ways. You can put the probe. You can actually put it under your armpit.
I think they do it in the ear now.
Yeah, I think even that anal stuff is primarily for infants, like less than 3 months old. That's supposed to be very accurate for them. Other than that,
I was 4 and 5 and 6 years old.
Exactly. Right.
And I'm still getting it.
That was it. Yeah. Don't miss that.
Okay. So one of those things about being upbeat is in America today, you have to have some money. And we're about financial freedom. We're about financial freedom. There's a way to make money. There's a way to keep money. And the best thing is having your money make money. And that's how wealth is produced. So Dr. Paul and I, we did an experiment. And we bought 100 shares of Ford. And I think we bought them at $14 or $15. Yeah, point being, these past 6 months have been the worst months of the market. And Dr. Paul and I have both lost $450 a piece with our investment. But we did not lose anything because we haven't sold. If you're in the market, it's very important to know that you don't gain or lose until you sell. Right. So even though our stock went down, we physically didn't lose any money because we're betting on the long bet. We're thinking that this stock one day will be $30 and $40 and $50. It just takes some time. And I'm telling you, you have to learn the markets. You have to learn how to, once you work your ass off and make some money, how to keep that money and how to make that money grow.
Yeah. And the Ford thing was kind of like a long-term play. If you're really sensitive about the stock price, you don't have to watch it go down. You can actually set a trigger and you can get out of it at a certain point. You can do that online very easily. So in other words, we bought it $15.50, I think, something like that. But if you want to say, hey, I don't want to lose more than like $50, if the price drops to $15 or $13.82, you could actually put a little stop there. And if it ever got to that within a certain amount of time, you'd be out of the trade. So okay,
right, they would sell it, but you would lose money.
You would lose money at that point. Yes, true.
See, when you don't sell, you don't lose money. And if you have a good stock, now I'm not talking about penny stocks. I'm not talking about, one of those stocks, you should do exactly what you're doing. Yes. If you're really taking a shot, you don't want to lose money on a shot. But if you're buying General Electric, if you're buying IBM, Apple, Google, Amazon, those things are not really applicable because sooner or later, the big stocks will always continue to rise.
Typically. Yeah. If you put money just in the S&P or Standard & Poor's 500 over a 50-year period, a 60-year period or longer, they've gone up.
Incredible, huh?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Well, the stock market, this is fact. The stock market has never lost. I sounded like I was from Boston right there. The stock market never lost.
Yeah, I want some seafood now. Talking to you.
Oh yeah, when we flew to Boston, how about that clam chowder? Lord have mercy.
Yeah, legal seafood was a chain. It's a good. I've gone to 2 of them up there. If you can get in, you may have to wait for a while.
Well, I got some good news for everybody. You and I did some research, and we just found out that they found some bones of human remains that were even older than the first ones ever found. And guess where they were found? Not in Indiana, but in Africa, which proves my point. We are all African Americans if you live here in America. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Mankind came from Africa. If you live in America, you're an African American. Have you ever heard me say that before, Dr. Paul?
A number of times. And apparently you're right. The oldest remains were like 2.6 million years ago, and they called her Lucy. And that was kind of somewhere in Ethiopia. And the one you're talking about, these are 1 million years older. And this was like about 30 miles northwest of Johannesburg, South Africa, like you said. Kind of in the same neighborhood geographically. They're not that far apart, but they estimate them to be between 3.4 and 3.6 million years old, not 0.2, 0.6. A different kind of hominin, a creature walking around that basically became people. So that's where everybody comes from, somewhere along the line. So if you look at
we all come from the continent of Africa. Yes. But where did you hear me say that a long time ago?
I heard you say that. I think it was on a Donahue show, a Phil Donahue show, and you were in your uniform and you were yelling at people, kids in the audience, and talking to Phil Donahue.
I was yelling at them to go to college now.
Yeah, going to college. Yeah,
right.
Go college. If you don't go, McDonald's needs you, or something like that. Whatever your spiel is, anyway. You got them riled up. I guess you were throwing truth bombs. We call that truth bombs.
Well, let me just tell you this about McDonald's, because I did say that. I said, if you're not planning on going to college, get out now, because McDonald's needs you. And that was a big laugh. Guess what? McDonald's contacted me. They brought me up to Chicago to McDonald's University. Oh, really? And they actually told me that they would support my speaking if I stopped saying McDonald's.
Oh, really?
And I said, I will stop saying McDonald's when you stop hiring dropouts. Because I think the answer is that you have to have a high school diploma, GED, or a report card to work. And that means young people would not drop out. They do what you let them do. But anyway, I did go to McDonald's University, and they didn't stop hiring dropouts, and I didn't stop saying McDonald's.
So there really is a McDonald's University?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, them quarter pounds of cheese make a lot of money.
I mean, it's like a teacher like the Hamburglar or something like that.
But you know what? This is a good financial thing. I like for us to learn financial things. Do you know there's something called the Burger King theory? So McDonald's put a lot of money into research on where they should put their restaurants, talking about traffic, how many people come by, when they come by, how they come by, all of those those numbers they put into something, and then they find a good place to put a McDonald's. You know what Burger King does?
No.
Wherever they put a McDonald's, they just put a Burger King. They don't have to do any research.
They let them do the research for them.
That's right. McDonald's did it all back for them. You sent me something about the Big Three. The Big Three is a basketball league started by Ice Cube. That they play 3-on-3 basketball, and these are kind of pros that are not pros anymore. And It actually became another league. Yeah. But when we were talking, I love Ice Cube. I'm going to tell you right now. I love his rapping. I love his movies. And we started talking about Boys in the Hood. Mm-hmm. You know, you and I grew up in the hood. Mm-hmm. But Boys in the Hood was a game changer as far as a movie. And I just Katrina and I both happened to see it last week or something. The only thing that was different, I didn't remember the cinematography not being as up to date as it is now. But other than that, the story was relevant. I love that movie.
It's good. I thought it was a great movie. What came out, 1989 or so? Yeah, I remember seeing it on a layover. I think it was 87, 88, 89. Great movie. Great movie. Great acting. Even the guy who was the cop, the black cop, you know. I've run into a couple people like that.
Oh yeah.
I'll just leave it there. He passed away recently. That role was played very, very well.
Anybody out there, if you haven't seen Boys in the Hood, that'd be a great night, a good Netflix movie to get. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah, it's an excellent movie. It's good today. It's good. It's like one of those classic Star Trek things. You play it 50, 60 years later, and it's good. Or a Bruce Lee movie. I watched a Bruce Lee movie 2 nights ago that the first time I saw it was 52 years ago. It's still good. Even though I know everything, I enjoyed seeing it. A little teeny, but the acting and the facial gestures, it still interests me.
Yeah. Well, the Boys in the Hood came across with a message too. But you know, the violence in the Boys in the Hood, they said violence went up in Arkansas because gangs in Arkansas didn't know how to be gangs until they saw Boys in the Hood. Then they started imitating them, not realizing it's just a movie.
Right.
How about that one? I love Ice Cube, though. He's my man. When they're angry and they're spitting, which means rapping, so you're not on that frequency, so you wouldn't know what spitting was.
I do. You know.
Wow, good one.
That's against the law. You get a ticket for that some places. They used to give you a ticket for that. They used to give you a ticket for that. I never saw a rap, but they tell you, spitting was an offense in certain places. Now
you spit verses. So guess what? HBCUs, historically Black college and universities, are now in vogue. And there are a lot of people who are not Black that are going to these schools. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting thing. And I even heard that some white guys who graduated from HBCUs actually have it up on other people because of the diversity. It's right there in your face when they put that on a resume, just to let you know that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, HBCUs, and I come from an HBCU, which was one of the best experiences I ever had, Southern University in New Orleans. And one of the reasons I told kids to go to college, could you imagine going to college in New Orleans? I had the best time I could ever have. So I can't imagine why you wouldn't go to college. But I just recently learned something, and this is about our wingmen this week. This wingman is very close to me because I think we just talked about him. Hey, Dr. Paul, you want to tell us about our wingman this week?
Yes, our wingman this week is none other than Albert Einstein. We were just talking about him. And the reason we're making him a wingman is apparently he's been a wingman to HBCUs. Didn't know that.
No, either did I.
Way back when, long time ago, he actually visited Lincoln University and gave instruction. Lincoln University is the first, we'll call it, Black college in the United States that granted degrees to Black people.
You can't say African-American college because all the colleges here are African-American.
That's what, right. Yeah. Look at the early part of the tape. Okay. We established that. Okay. He's the first one. So anyway, he's there. There's pictures of him instructing.
On YouTube, we'll show him right now.
We'll show the pictures. He's there giving instruction. It's not a what do you call it? Photoshopped image. It's pictures in color and black and white. And he's there instructing. I don't know how often that he did it, but he believed
he's a graduate.
Yeah. He was given an honorary degree, and not like he needed it. He came and supported and thought that mistreatment of people was unfair. He had done other things. There was a singer named Marian Anderson, who was a famous opera singer, and she came to Princeton, New Jersey. They wouldn't, she couldn't stay in a hotel because she was Black. So she stayed at his house, and they became friends thereon. He got the Nobel Prize in, I think, 1921 in physics. But his activism, if you want to call it activism, really was his whole life. He died in 1955 and thought that just racism in general was essentially a mental illness, which I've heard people say recently, but that goes back a long ways. It's a mental illness.
Wow.
It's just a form of mental illness.
Well, can I interrupt you and give you a quote that he said at the university
after
he visited Lincoln? Because this goes just with what you're saying. This quote is, "My trip to this institution was on behalf of a worthwhile cause. There is a separation of colored people from white people in the United States. The separation is not a disease of colored people. It's a disease of white people."
Oh, wow.
That's pretty deep back then to say. Mm-hmm. He was a Jew. And like I said, Jesse Owens, Albert Einstein, and Joe Louis proved Hitler wrong, that the white race was not superior. Albert Einstein was more than just a genius. He was a man of real beliefs. And, he was doing this back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, way before 1964, before civil rights. Who was the Black guy that he was friends with? Because the guy went to jail, and then they had a trial.
It might have been, I think it was Paul Robeson.
That's who it was. And Albert Einstein told the judge that I'm going to be a character witness. And the judge dropped the case. How about that? Yeah, everybody, thank you so much for listening to our show. Dr. Paul and I really, really do appreciate it. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. Our new listeners, welcome. Our old listeners, you just keep hanging with us. Dr. Paul, I pray for peace, brother.
I pray for peace, and everyone stay positive.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.